everybody, and welcome to the third floor booth of the Murphy building. Once again, Martino Puccio, Matt Lascelles alongside me here. Okay, second topic of the day, and the final one, Jimmy Butler and the Bulls. There's been a lot of, wouldn't you say, controversy? I'm not really sure what the right word is, but there's been a lot of friction between the Bulls
I like friction.
front office and Jimmy Butler these past couple of seasons. It really started off with the whole contract situation and how Jimmy didn't really want to just take the money that was on the table. Instead, he kind of risked it on himself, and then he ended up getting that nice, huge contract extension, in which he earned because he's been the best player on the Bulls these past few seasons, anyways. But now, this past offseason, obviously, the Bulls probably the biggest head scratchers decisions of the whole offseason. Just really, really strange moves. They decided not to trade Jimmy, obviously. They bring in Rondo for 2 years. They bring in D Wade for 2 years. And we talked about it in our preseason predictions, and that the Bulls were really going to be the wild card of the East. And they're kind of they're at where we thought they would be at, and they're the bottom of the East. Technically, they're in the playoffs right now, but they still have a losing record.
Yeah.
So the whole Rondo situation with the Instagram and the posting, and how these veteran leaders wouldn't have tolerated this back in Boston, this or that. I mean,
Can I just say off the bat that I think that Rajon Rondo is completely out of line with those statements.
Mhm.
Not because his statements are wrong; they're true.
not wrong. They're true.
They're true, but you haven't played for the Celtics in 4 years now.
Mhm.
Are we at 4?
Almost. It's around 3 years.
Okay, that's irrelevant. All of that's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he was trying to prove. I know what he was trying to prove.
I think he was talking. Personally, it's just he was just trying to give off. That was like, hey, I've been there. I've won a championship. I've been around guys that know what the heck they're doing. And honestly, I get where he's saying, but
It's
going to social,
disrespectful to Dwayne Wade.
it's a little disrespectful to D Wade. Yeah, but D Wade's also got to do a better job. I thought he's done a very, very poor job leading this team. And I know he really deferred to Jimmy Butler in the summer when he signed there. He said, "This is Jimmy's team."
It is.
But at the same time, yeah, as you could also even argue that when they were down in Miami and LeBron was there, that was LeBron's team. I know D Wade was there. He had the seniority down in Miami. But at the end of the day, who's the real leader down in Miami? Who's the guy that everyone turns to at the end of the day and you're like, that's our guy. We're going to follow him into the battlefield. That's LeBron. But in saying that, D Wade's a 3-time champion, okay? He chose to go to Chicago. I know there was the whole problem with Pat Riley back in Miami and whether they wanted to commit a lot of their money in future to D Wade. I guess they didn't really want a similar situation with Kobe and the Lakers, right?
Right.
So, I mean, they decided to do that. And then Jimmy too, some of Jimmy's comments are really interesting, and the one comment that he was saying that he really likes controversy. That really confuses me.
It confuses me as well. You don't really want your leader to kind of feed off controversy.
Mhm.
Of course, unless he has other people that can help you lead. If you're
Mhm.
the guy, you're the
Mhm.
only guy. That's it's not, and you could kind of argue that. Same with New York. Melo's kind of the same way. Melo does feed off controversy a tad bit, even if he doesn't want to admit it. Something happens, and then boom, the next night he'll put up 30 or 40. Something of that nature a little bit. The comments are interesting. Why do you feed off controversy? But I think maybe it might be something that gets read into a little too much. I think a lot of the issues also have to do with Fred Hoiberg.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Fred
Last year,
Hoiberg's
too.
cut for the NBA.
No, and we said this
It was
last
too
year
early
too.
of a jump. He's a young guy.
Yeah, we said this last year too, and we said it in the preseason when we were talking about our predictions for the
Yeah.
Bulls this season.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in that locker room actually respects Fred Hoiberg
No.
as a coach,
No.
and they don't. And I think there was problems when there was Joakim Noah last year, regardless of his injuries, blah blah blah, whatever. And then the Derrick Rose situation and how Derrick Rose left town, and they weren't sure who to give the keys to the franchise to. I mean, ultimately it was Jimmy Butler, but even then in the offseason there were still some rumors there like, hey, we might trade Jimmy, but then they made the moves for Rondo and Wade, and just not even that. It has to do with the front office.
Then they go out and get Michael Carter Carter Williams, and it's just
they traded
things,
Tony Snell, and
things that don't make a whole lot of sense.
No, and they didn't make a whole lot of sense. And then Denzel Valentine's in the D League, and it's reported that he's going to be staying there the next 3 games, and then he's gonna be reevaluated by the Bulls after those 3 games to kind of see where he's at. So who knows what that means?
I'm watching Mike and Mike the other day, and Ryan Russillo's on there, and he was talking of a situation that he got from a source, about unless you're reading that right now, about how they threatened to start Tony Snell over Jimmy, and
with the limits restriction with Jimmy Butler, and they were going to limit his minutes because of the whole salary contract. I'll get it for you right here. Is Butler, what we were talking about earlier, passed up on the rookie scale extension in 2014, and Chicago's front office threatened to reduce his minutes to diminish his value heading into restricted free agency, which basically means that, hey, we're going to take your minutes, we're going to bring down your value because you're not going to be putting up as good as numbers, so you're not going to get the deal that you want, which is horrible, horrendous. If I was Jimmy, because, and I know
if the goal is to do that, so he doesn't get a good deal, so he has to stay. You think he wants to stay after what you just did to him?
Yeah. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen when he's an unrestricted free agent? He's not even going to give you the time of day.
Absolutely, and he gets thrown in their face.
And who knows? Maybe he's going back at it now. But there was also some comments that he was made. This was reported by Nick Friedel of ESPN.com. He covers the Bulls for ESPN Chicago. Jimmy was specifically asked about his relationships with the executives Gar Forman and John Paxson, and Butler insisted that it's good. They're my bosses. Butler said, quote, we talk like men. If I have a problem or if they have a problem, we talk like we're supposed to. I think it's very professional, close quote. So, I mean, he's saying and doing all the right things, just the same as Melo, like we talked about the other day.
Right.
But you can say and do all you want, but when you're losing on the court and there's clearly friction on in the locker room, that everyone just gets a sense of it. If anyone has a clue that has been watching professional sports for some time, or even people that have been around locker rooms, they know things are not right in there.
Right.
So
listen, it's Jimmy's team moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, a head coaching change, is it going to be made? Probably not. It's kind of one of those things you ride out.
I think Hoiberg, if they finish with a losing record and they're in the same spot that they're in right now, I think Hoiberg's gone.
I think if there's any locker room problems surrounding Hoiberg, it's not because of his age or anything like that, but you are coming from a program, you didn't win anything. You weren't. I mean, you were pretty successful.
They were an entertaining program.
They were an entertaining program. You were pretty successful, but it's not something that necessarily translates to the NBA. And I think that's one of those things he was trying to go with. This is Iowa State played a similar type of basketball as Iona. You get long guards and you run up and down the floor, and you have Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, Michael Carter Williams, and you can make the argument that he was attempting to make that sort of goal and just run with everybody.
But they just don't have the shooters, and we knew they weren't going to have the shooters.
And you can't play in the Central with this kind of team. You already got the Bucks, which already are that team.
Losing Pau Gasol was a big deal.
Yeah.
I just don't think Doug McDermott has developed as well as they thought he would.
Yeah, that was a real overshot.
Nikola Mirotic has been on the decline. I could really compare them, and it's a similar situation to the San Francisco 49ers in football, where they had this really good and well-respected head coach by the players in Tom Thibodeau, but there was friction between him and the front office, and they couldn't figure out their problems. So what happens? Tom Thibodeau ends up leaving. There's all these injury problems with Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah's on the decline, Pau Gasol ends up leaving, and it's just, I mean, call it what it is. You still have Jimmy Butler at the end of the day, so you can still kind of recoup and probably cut your losses and come up with something decent from Jimmy Butler in a trade. Do you think that's even a possibility right now? Do you think they're going to trade Jimmy, or they're going to have a similar situation with DeMarcus? They're going to wait till the offseason?
I think they're going to wait till the offseason just because they're in a playoff spot right now. And
yeah, we play the Celtics as of today.
And they would play the Celtics as of today. And I think it's at a point where you don't trade Jimmy. Jimmy's your guy. You make him your franchise player, and you build around him. I think that there was a question on whether or not you could build around him because he's always been the defensive player, and the offense has came on last year as well. But this year, are 2 40-point games. I don't think there's a question now that he does enough that he could.
He's the guy.
To be your guy. There's no question anymore. So they need to decide. hey, if we're gonna build around Jimmy, this is what we do, and then we're gonna have to go out and get other pieces and rebuild or strip from the bottom, whatever it is. I also saw there's this whole idea where everybody thinks if you're rebuilding, you got to be 22 and under. You don't.
No, you don't have
You
to.
don't.
Jimmy
NBA
Butler
careers are a long period of time.
Jimmy Butler is just scratching the surface of his prime.
Yeah.
So he'll be around for a little while. It really just depends on what the Chicago Bulls want to do here. I think they got to get rid of Rondo. I think they got to get rid of D Wade. But also at the same time, they're not going to be having a lottery pick in a stock draft.
Right.
They obviously their picks haven't turned out the way they wanted to. They traded away a lot to get Doug McDermott. They picked Denzel Valentine. He hasn't been as good as they thought. The trade for Michael Carter-Williams hasn't been as good as they thought. I think the best case scenario for me, if I were the Chicago Bulls, might have to be clean house and possibly get the best that you can for Jimmy Butler if you really want to start this over. Otherwise, it's going to be a longer rebuild if you just have Jimmy Butler and you try and build around with these mid-round picks right outside of the lottery. I think it's going to be very difficult for them, and I think that's an avenue that they're going to have to explore come summertime. So,
Absolutely.
what do you think's gonna happen really quick?
I mean, you're 100% right. I'd like to see him stay. I'd like to see him become the guy and they build around him. But then fans are gonna have to know. He's gonna have to know. Other coaches are gonna have to know. It's gonna take a few extra years longer. And Jimmy's probably not willing to do that. You're not gonna be young forever, and that's why guys like to get that first ring or at least a shot at going for your first ring young. And they're not there yet with him there or not there. They're still at least a few years away from that. So you got to,
especially with LeBron in the conference, and you got teams like the Bucks and the Celtics up and coming and all, and even Toronto still too.
Yeah. So it really depends what how they decide to do that. So
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how all these news and rumors are going to be developing over the course of this season and come draft time and summertime free agency. But that'll do it for me. I'm Martino Puccio, Matt Lascella alongside with me. You can also subscribe to our channel here. I think this is the WICR Gales radio station. Subscribe here. Look out for our videos. We're going to be coming out with a lot of baseball stuff soon because spring training pitchers and catchers are reporting soon, and opening day is not too far away. Also, the rest of basketball news. We're hopefully going to be having a lot of March Madness news coming up too. We're already in February. March is right here. This is the best time of the year for sports. Okay, we're going to be signing off. See you guys next time here every Monday and Wednesday for the rest of the semester.